Previously,
Man of Steel.
Now, back to our show.
So the opening Krypton action scene,
It was alright.
it's fine. It's
reminded-
sci-fi.
It reminded me of Pandora.
Yeah.
I don't know if
it's
that was
basically
because of the
Avatar.
creatures or just how everything went.
Yes.
I think the first big action scene with Clark versus Zod henchman should have stayed on the farm.
No need to go all around Smallville.
I mean, yes, you needed that IHOP.
It was IHOP and 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And the Sears. Don't forget the Sears. Buy your khakis after your destruction.
You couldn't have done anything else. I just felt like it should have been contained because that's what initiated it.
Well,
it was a personal attack against Superman.
Right.
You attacked his mom, so
Right.
of course he's gonna go off. You didn't have to drag them into Smallville.
Well, it's funny because that scene against her is the most contained and smallest scale action fight. But compared to most movies, that's the last fight scene by scale.
But now to the final action scene. I liked some of it. I liked when it was in camera.
He's a good visual director.
Yeah.
It's everything else I'm not a fan of.
I liked Zod learning how to fly. He taught himself, which it took 20 plus years for Clark to learn.
So no, he could even try to do that.
But Zod was like, you know what? I'm a warrior.
That makes Superman kind of stupid because Zod was freaking out whenever his helmet came off and he was going through what Clark did when he was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "What's going on?" Superman's like, I learned to contain it. I was like, "Why are you telling him how to use it? He's gonna kill you. Just take him out. You don't have to kill him, but knock his ass out before he figures this shit out." My thing with the big action scene at the end, collateral damage. I know you didn't really care about it as much, and to me, collateral damage isn't. It's not a big deal at first, initially. I think it's the context of how it is, and how the movie deals with it. In a Superman movie, collateral damage should not be a background thing.
Right.
Because one of his big things is, I have to protect this planet. This isn't my home. Or this isn't my planet, but it's my home. You see people in the background flying in the air.
Yeah.
They're dead. Those people are dead. Those are dead people you're seeing. Superman's not really responsible for buildings coming down in that movie. It's definitely Zod. But Superman never tries to get Zod away from the city.
Yeah.
He never attempts to get Zod away. There are points where he's in control of the fight and he just kind of keeps Zod there. Just because Zod just wants to kill you. Just kind of fly away from him, teasing him up away, into the sky. This is where, it really feels like Superman isn't Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether it's a darker tone or it's a new Superman, in any adaptation, I think you can change rules and, certain characteristics for most parts in an adaptation. Because you should make it different. It should be exactly like the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
But you should be able to tell this is Superman, this is Spider-Man, this is, Batman. You should be able to tell who they are by their actions alone. And with Superman in this movie, he's more focused on just beating Zod than saving people.
Mm-hmm. My biggest problem with the final action scene is Superman. I never felt like he was in danger.
No, that's
yeah.
that's my biggest gripe with the action scene. Because it's a 20-minute fight scene where they're just fighting. And
it's just a bunch of punching and throwing.
And it's the big, even in the Smallville fight with his henchwoman, the fights are boring.
Mm-hmm.
As big scale as the action is, it's fucking boring. Because it's just two invincible people punching each other. They're not fighting in any creative way. They're just, now they're in this location, flew over here. Now they're being punched over here. Flying over there. Punching over here. That's the whole fight. But it's way too long for that to be the only thing.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I should think, man, Zod might actually pull this off.
You never think, oh, what is Superman gonna have to do to beat Zod?
Mm-hmm.
I think the best type of superhero fights is when the hero has to either find something inside them to give them the strength to fight back, or they have to outsmart the villain. Because that's what shows you the difference between the two. When they're both just punching the shit out of each other, it's just which one's gonna break first.
Yeah.
But that gets really old. You don't really have a problem with it compared to me. I don't know, maybe you did, maybe you noticed what I was talking about once you saw it again.
No, I've always known what you talked about, but I figure that might just be a Christopher Nolan thing because he plays a lot of his movies out of order. I don't know why.
But when he does it, it works. This movie, it doesn't. So I don't have a problem when a movie's out of order because sometimes telling it out of order actually enhances the moments. Mm-hmm. In this movie, I think that actually makes it worse. The movie starts with Kal-El as a baby on Krypton. That's fine. The whole Krypton scene almost has a reason to be in the movie. It almost does. But once I saw the movie again, I kind of thought about, there's no point to it. So you have like the first 25 minutes of the movie on Krypton. Right at the end of that, Clark crashes onto Earth and it cuts to him as an adult as saving people from an oil tanker explosion. But the only reason that's there is just so you know, that's Superman. And they don't want to do the normal, like, he's a child, growing up, getting used to his powers, and then becoming Superman. They don't want to do that. But the problem is, this whole movie is like self-discovery. Like, his Earth dad is telling him, you should hide your powers away, while his alien dad tells him, you're gonna be their savior. He discovers who he is after finding the ship when he's an adult, and over time taking into account what his Earth dad said. It's all about leading up to that moment.
Right.
But all those are in flashback forms because the oil tanker is after Papa Kent has died. Which means Superman has already made the decision to save people. So when you hear Papa Kent tell him, hide your powers, don't save people, you know he's not going to listen to him. Because you try to add this conflict later in the movie. But you know already, well, he's going to save people anyway. Why do I need to have the conflict in there of like, oh, should I or should I not? You've already established that he's not going to listen to his dad. If you either took the oil taker scene out, which I think you could have fucking done, you crash land, and you could have cut to him hitchhiking. I think the biggest problem with the movie is that it's boring and it's like slow, and it's like people are either just explaining how important everything is, or a big ass action scene. It's one or the other.
Right.
There's not, and they don't flow together super well. They just kind of happen, and then next thing. So you have the oil tanker scene, and then for less than a minute, cuts back to him in school, getting used to his powers. The only purpose of that scene is so when Zod freaks out later, you understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of that. But is that super necessary in the movie? No, because no one really questions, oh, well, how did Superman get used to his powers, like, adapting here? I mean, I would just assume he got used to it. And, like, when Zod and Ursa and Non get on Earth on Superman 2, they just kind of like, I can fly here. They just, like, realize they feel stronger. They're like, okay, that's how it works. That's cool. Like, it's not a big deal. It's not super important to the story.
Right.
That's such a small detail that, like, out of all the details this movie, like, decides to just ignore, like, to set up but not really have a payoff, that's the one that they kept in. Cut back to him, washing up on the small town, stealing that guy's clothes. He looks over and sees a school bus. Cut to the school bus happening. Why? What is the point of it cutting there?
Right.
It would have made way more. You could have fucking done it to where, again, if you still want to do it out of order, pick up on the hitchhiking, and then a bus drives by, and that's your cue. Whether that's even better or not, the bus scene is fine. Because that will introduce the whole, he tried to save people, but his dad told him not to. Then you have your conflict. And that would explain why he doesn't do it later. When he finds out he's Superman, and like his dad's consciousness explains it all to him, his dad literally explains what you saw in the first 20 minutes of the movie. He just recaps everything. So what is the point if they're just going to tell you? There's no point in his dad re-explaining everything if you saw it. It's for Clark to hear, but if that's going to be the case, why do we need to hear it? You're wasting my time re-explaining shit I know. Like, this whole thing is like, he's discovering this for the first time. I wish I was discovering it for the first time. But I already know this happened. I had to wait 20 minutes to learn all this. Mm-hmm. Then there's the fucking cutaway. He gets bullied, and he could beat up the people. He could beat up those bullies, but he chooses not to. And, okay, fine scene. It's kind of late to put that in the movie. That would have been better earlier in the movie. But out of all times for that to happen, you do realize that in the scene where he's at the bar, they already had that scene where the guy grabs the waitress's ass, pours beer, and throws a beer can at him. They already established that he could beat people up. Why do you establish it again? This movie reestablishes shit you've already seen, and it's like, it's supposed to be the smart man or thinking man Superman. So why is it acting like I'm a child? Is it deep or is it not? Is it thought-provoking or does it have to keep re-explaining itself because it assumes I'm dumb?
I don't disagree with you, but I don't think having the flashbacks make the movie any worse.
Not the fact they're worse, I just think the structure's weak. Yeah. It's distracting because it doesn't add to the movie what it's trying to do. Over time, you're just not super interested in the story because things are just kind of happening. There's just events going on. Like, Superman's here now. Someone tells him this. Superman's here now. He's telling this. Zod's doing this. Superman's here. It's just that. That's the movie. One of the biggest controversial things that came out of this movie, Superman snapping Zod's neck at the end of the fight. Honestly, never bothered me.
I didn't care at all.
Because people are like, well, Superman doesn't kill people. That's never been a thing. Superman will kill someone if he has to. He's not Batman. My issue with the neck snapping comes from its context. One, the whole movie beforehand, it never established that he doesn't want to kill. And if I'm not fucking mistaken, right before that last fight started, Zod was like, Zod! If you destroy this ship, you destroy Krypton!
He's like, okay.
He's like, bitch, fine. And yeah, Jor-El's whole, he'll be the bridge between two peoples, literally kills the rest of one of the two peoples. So when he snaps Zod's neck, it's not like, oh, why is he so upset about it? Like, I understand why now he's alone.
Yeah, he's alone, and he actually did kind of, like, now he directly killed somebody.
Yeah. But then what's the very next scene?
He's all happy, man.
Yeah, he just throws down this satellite at the government and, like, sasses them, and then flies away. Like, there's no reference to the neck snapping. It's supposed to be this huge fucking moment for him. There's no build-up beforehand for it, and there's no payoff after it. It's just a scene. And it's supposed to be a big fucking character deal. It's like the most character development he has in the movie. But nothing. There's no build-up and no payoff. It's just that.
The point of that entire scene was that they could fight forever if they had to. That was it. Zod even said it. He's like, are we going to keep fighting? Or it's like... No, that tells me that you had no idea how to end your movie. But let's just have him kill him. That's it. Yeah. I had no problem with him killing Zod because
it feels like it's lazy.
Yeah, it's just saying like, well, you just had no real intention of like giving Superman a way to defeat Zod. There was no tension in that whole scene. Like, I knew Superman was just basically waiting for Zod's stamina to run out. Because he's stronger than him. He's faster than him. Like, so he was basically just taking hits, not any real damage.
Right.
And they tried to play it off like, oh, he's super hurt. But he managed to get him in that headlock. Like, no, I knew that was going to happen. And it just proves to me that you didn't know how to write that ending where you're like, he's dead.
He snapped his neck.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Let's have Military Girl, who's in the sequel, by the way. Let's have Military Girl talk about how cute Superman is, because that's the ending we need.
Symbolism.
Oh, I got this. I am a Christian, as most people know. And I am tired of all the Jesus symbolism in so many movies. Specifically, this movie. Because it's so unnecessary. There's all the cross poses.
And that's the thing, like, that's a superhero trope, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a pose in a lot of superhero movies. That just needs to stop.
Yeah.
Because, one, it might have worked, like, once or twice. But now that like every other superhero movie like feels like, oh, let's do a pose. That's another thing about the story I kind of want to get to, where it's like, this movie is like like I said, the thinking man Superman. What is the focus? What is this story supposed to represent? Is it Superman? Is it supposed to be like a retelling of Jesus if he was Superman? Is it nature versus nurture? Like, what the fuck is this movie really about?
It's supposed to be nature versus nurture because you have Papa Kent, Jor-El, Superman's
bridge between two peoples, all that crap.
There's, hey, this is Jesus. We're literally telling you this with all these cross poses.
Oh, it's not just the cross poses. Did you get the subtle hint when he went to the church and there's a stained glass window of Jesus himself right behind Clark? Or did you notice when he's being interrogated, they ask him, how can we trust you? And he's like,
been here for 33 years, Doctor. Haven't infected anyone yet.
He's fucking 33.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up.
You couldn't fucking resist to write in the movie. Out of all ages, you can't even say, oh, that's just a coincidence. After the church, it's before the church scene, but after you see the church scene and the fucking cross poses, that is not a coincidence. Yeah. Saves the people from the bus.
It was an act of God, Jonathan. This was providence.
That was probably more obvious than the stained glass window.
The story behind Superman is, he has the power to be a god. But this movie beats you over the head. Like, no, he's not a god. He is the god.
He is a Jesus the Christ.
He is capital G-O-D. And it's... What does it add to the story?
There's only one line I think that works with it, where Jor-El tells the Superman's mom,
"He'll be a god to them."
Yeah.
If you want to put that symbolism in the movie, that is where you stop. Mm-hmm. That is where you fucking stop. Because everything else is way too on the head, where it's like, no, there is no thinking here. It's very fucking obvious what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, you can't... This movie isn't deep because it has a bunch of symbolism in it. Symbolism, like, true deep symbolism is stuff where you have to think about it. Not to where, like, you wouldn't guess it, but, like, if you study the movie and actually watch it for more than just entertainment, you'll be like, I didn't catch that. Or, wow, this movie has another layer to it. This movie has layers, kind of. Can layers be next to each other? Can layers all be the same, like, deepness, but they're all on the top? Jesus!
It comes down to, like, is this movie just preaching at me?
Right.
Like, or should I, like, go on a limb and say, hey, don't make this movie about Jesus, because that's not what I'm here for. Right. If I wanted it to be about Jesus, I would go to the Christian Network channel, or I would go to church. Overall
opinion, it's a movie with potential, and it squanders a lot of it.
If I had to start over the DCEU with the movies that we have now, I would go with Wonder Woman. But Man of Steel, considering all the circumstances, Man of Steel is not a terrible start to a franchise.
Yeah. Because there's clear room for improvement.
Yeah.
But there's definitely places where, like, they could have fucked up way worse.
Like, this is gonna piss some people off. It's not Iron Man.
It's not.
It's not even fucking Captain America.
The first one.
Yeah. But you can see that the movie tries. You can see where there's some, like, glimpse of, like, hey, they could build on this, which they did.
It's trying to be very, like, it's trying to have a lot of layers. It's trying to go a lot of places and really make you think. But it also just explains shit. But a lot of the movie is just explaining and talking about what's going to happen and who means what. And that gets boring, and the action is boring. I hate being that simple-minded about it, but Man of Steel is a boring movie. There are certain slow movies I like, and they're good. They're slow, but they work. Mm-hmm. This is a slow, boring movie. It's lack of focus. It's its lack of focus, and it's just trying to do too much for a starting franchise movie. It should have been more simple, and there's nothing wrong with simple. Final rating, it's right in the middle.
Yep. It used to be this. It's not this.
The half sequel to this movie is up next.
That was disgusting.
And we will be going over the Ultimate Edition just because every detail counts.
Because I don't want to hear anybody complaining that we didn't sit through a 3-hour movie.
Okay.
Bah!